Good afternoon, everybody. Spin Ventures here. We are in Palmetto, Florida, at the Gambling Mansion and Plantation. Right behind me, of course, is the mansion, and we're going to take a tour of the mansion today, as well as learn the why it was built and who built it, and what it was used for. Also, some interesting facts from the closing of the Seminole War in 1842. It was the major fronts, Major Robert Gamble and other sugar planters, located along the rich Manatee River, and by 1845 a dozen plantations produced for the New Orleans market. The Gamble Plantation, the Gamble Mansion, it was built principally of native materials of 1845 to 1850, as well as it was an outstanding monument to the pioneer in ingenuity craftsmanship. It included 3,500 acres, numerous outbuildings, slave quarters, a wharf from which sugar and molasses were shipped by schooner and steamboat. So we're also going to learn about what that was used for as well. Let's go ahead and head inside the visitor center. Let's get some tickets and tour the Gamble Mansion and Plantation. Follow me. Alright, so we are going to head over here and wait for our tour to begin. It starts at 2 o'clock. It is 3 minutes till 2. So we should be able to just relax in one of these nice rocking chairs in front of the mansion. And we will be able to enter momentarily. So this is where Judah P. Benjamin Gamble would entertain his guests when he would have guests over, as well as most likely the piano, play songs. They would dance and just have a good time here in the entertainment room. Most notably, the entertainment. That's fireplace here.
Robert Gamble's furnishings.
Okay.
Robert Gamble was here for 12 years, from 1844 to 1856. And while he was here, he built up a debt to his creditors of $190,000.
Wow.
In order to pay off that debt, he sold his estate to his creditors and moved back to Tallahassee, where he came from. And when he left here, he took all his furnishings with him, put them in a warehouse in Tallahassee, and 13 hours later, the warehouse burned down to the ground. So we don't have any of Robert Gamble's furnishings left over. But the furnishings inside the house are from the same time period. So we ask that you please make sure not to touch or sit on any of the furniture. If you do need to sit down while we're inside, you can sit down on the windowsills. They do extend throughout most of the house.
Okay.
This is the dining room. You look above the fireplace, you'll see a portrait of Major Robert Gamble, the man who built this house. That was taken in his later years. He was 30 years old when he came here. When Gamble left here in 1856, went back to Tallahassee, took over his father's sugarcane plantation, became very wealthy. In the 12 years that he lived here, he was a bachelor, was not married, he had no children. He eventually did get married in 1857 after he left here, and he had 2 children. He lived to the age of 92 before he passed away in the year 1906 in Tallahassee.
And there's a picture of George Washington on the frame, and he was talking about the tabby, which is a concrete, and they would enter those hooks right there. You can see the hooks hanging down to hang pictures, and if you wanted to move them, you just slide the hooks over to where you want to position your picture frame.
Well, this is Robert Gamble's office. You'll notice 2 different styles of desks that we have in here. A stand-up desk here, sit-down desk over there. They can use any variety of different ways. If you are working up here at the stand-up desk next to this adjustable lamp and you notice you had too much light, all you have to do is just run it up like this. And the candle will be further away, actually lessens the light of what you're working on down below. On the other hand, you need more light, just reverse that pattern, bring it right back down again. and that bring more light closer to what you're working on. Now, Robert Gamble Plantation here is a very isolated area. The nearest store at that time, 220 miles to the north in St. Mark's, Florida, just south of Tallahassee.
Yeah.
So they only made one trip to the store a month.
Oh, wow.
And between that trip, well, they had their own livestock here.
Wow.
And they grew their own crops. Corn, beans, cotton, tobacco, potatoes, rice, citrus, olives, and grapes. Now, all those I mentioned to you were just for use here on the plantation. His major cash crop was sugar cane. Yeah. And one of the items I mentioned to you was tobacco, and that's what I got right here. This is a plug or twist of chewing tobacco. And they carry these around out in the fields. When they take a chaw, just pull it on out, bite a piece off, and start chewing on it. When you're chewing on tobacco, you get tobacco juice and you have to spit that out. And that's why we have spittoons. Yeah. One over here underneath this desk, another one underneath this table, and you just spit out that tobacco juice into those spittoons.
So this is where Judah P. Benjamin Gamble would entertain his guests when he would have guests over, as well as most likely the piano, play songs. They would dance and just have a good time here in the entertainment room. Most notably, the entertainment. Nice fireplace here. And there's a picture of George Washington on the frame, and he was talking about the tabby, which is a concrete, and they would enter those hooks right there. You can see the hooks hanging down to hang pictures, and if you wanted to move them, you just slide the hooks over to where you want to position your picture frame.
Well, this is Robert Gamble's office. You'll notice two different styles of desks that we have in here. A stand-up desk here, yeah. Sit-down desk over there. They can use any variety of different ways. If you are working up here at the stand-up desk next to this adjustable lamp and you notice you had too much light, all you have to do is just run it up like this. And the candle will be further away, actually lessens the light of what you're working on down below. On the other hand, you need more light, just reverse that pattern, bring it right back down again. And that bring more light closer to what you're working on. Now, Robert Gamble Plantation here is a very isolated area. The nearest store at that time, 220 miles to the north in St. Mark's, Florida, just south of Tallahassee. Yeah. So they only made one trip to the store a month.
Oh, wow.
And between that trip, well, they had their own livestock here. Wow. And they grew their own crops. Corn, beans, cotton, tobacco, potatoes, rice, citrus, olives, and grapes. Now, all those I mentioned to you were just for use here on the plantation. His major cash crop was sugar cane. Yeah. And one of the items I mentioned to you was tobacco, and that's what I got right here. This is a plug or twist of chewing tobacco. And they carry these around out in the fields. When they take a chaw, just pull it on out, bite a piece off, and start chewing on it. When you're chewing on tobacco, you get tobacco juice and you have to spit that out. And that's why we have spittoons. Yeah. One over here underneath this desk, another one underneath this table, and you just spit out that tobacco juice into those spittoons. It's a fairly large fireplace. It is the largest fireplace in the entire house, and for good reason. They did all their cooking right here in this fireplace. Wow. You usually have a fire going there all the time. With that fire going there all the time like that, you'd have hot ash in the toilet from this fireplace. You could actually use that hot ash to cook on. Now, one of the things you notice missing in here is an oven. How would you bake things like pies, cakes, and bread? You use this pan here. This is known as a spider pan, and this was used to bake with. I say make some cornbread. You take the cornmeal and the flour to the dry storage area right over here and make it into a dough. Take that dough, put it inside this spider pan, put this top back on, then take the entire pan, put it in the fireplace, and bury it up in that hot ash. And you'd be cooking from the bottom and the top evenly, just like an oven does. And that's how you bake your pies, cakes, and breads. Okay. This item here is a coffee bean roaster. They did not grow coffee here on the plantation. They had to buy it in bulk when they went to the store once a month. And they bought the beans raw and unroasted. And here's a good example of raw and roasted coffee beans here. You would take those raw beans, put them into the roaster, take the roaster, put it into the fire, turn the handle on it. That way you roast the beans without burning them. Pull them out. Now you have roasted beans, you can see here. Take those roasted beans from the top of the coffee grinder here, close this up, turn the wheel and grind them up, and you have freshly ground coffee down below, just like this.
Oh, wow.
Right into the other end of that water cistern. Now, the cistern is made of tab, as you can see here. It holds about 40,000 gallons of water. And it's tipped slightly so that the water will work its way from one end of the cistern down there to this end right here the bucket is. And if you look inside here, you can actually see there's a thin wall of tabby that goes right down the middle of the water cistern. Now remember, tabby is made out of crushed and burned oyster shells, which forms lime. And limestone is a natural water purifier. So the water would actually work its way through that thin tabby wall, purifying itself as it did so. No need to boil the water. Now the only problem he has is mosquitoes. They get into the water and lay their eggs in there, see a mosquito larva floating around in your drinking water.
Oh.
So he went ahead and put minnows in there, little fish. The minnows would eat the mosquito larva to the water as well as the algae to keep it from stagnating. So you had to worry about when you brought your bucket up was that you didn't have a fish in it, and that was it. House, ring the bell. Slaves would hear the bell ringing out in the field, and they had to come into the house to be communicated to or to help out. When they went on to Cuba, and from Cuba he went on to England.
Oh, wow.
Once he got to England, he studied English law and became a barrister, and eventually worked his way up to be a counselor on Queen Victoria's court before he passed away in the year 1884 in Paris. So this is the room that Mr. Benjamin used as his hiding place while he stayed here at Gamble Plantation. See a picture of Hubie Benjamin. That was taken when he was a senator from Louisiana back in the 1850s before the war broke out. Another picture of Mr. Benjamin on this wall, taken when he's a counselor on Queen Victoria's court. And two gentlemen in the corner here, the bottom one is Captain Tresca, top one is Sergeant McLeod. Those are the two men who risked their lives to get Mr. Benjamin to England. Now, I mentioned mosquitoes to you downstairs. They were a big problem in those days. And if you look at these windows, you notice there's no screening on the windows.
Right.
Which means those mosquitoes can come in out of the windows as freely as you're not walking out the door. And you had to protect yourselves from mosquitoes. They still carry things like malaria and yellow fever. You didn't want to get that. So one of the ways they protect themselves from mosquitoes were four-poster beds. They have mosquito netting. Look above the fireplace. See a picture of Major Robert Gamble taken in his later years. The bed you see here next to me is known as a rope bed. Gets its name from the ropes you see that from the bottom section you're holding the mattress up. With sleeping on it with humidity, those ropes would tend to sag a little bit. Your mattress would tend to sag a little bit.
Yeah.
And you don't want to sleep on a saggy mattress. So you come around over here with a key, which is a long pole. Stick that key into this hole right here, push down on it. That will tighten these ropes up, firming your mattress up. Once you got those ropes into that tight position, there are two ratchets on either side of the bed that would hold those ratchets in the tight position. And that's where you get the saying, sleep tight from, sleeping on tight ropes.
Oh.
This item here is a bedroll. If you ever got cold in the middle of the night, just reach out and grab your bedroll and roll it out on top of yourself, and you would be nice and warm underneath it. And they didn't have the modern conveniences you and I have today. If you go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, there you go right there. Square wooden one is known as a thunderbox. The one on top is known as a slop jar, honey pot, or some people call it a chamber pot. And you would just do what you needed to do in the middle of the night, and the household slaves would come and clean it up the next morning. Definitely makes you appreciate what you've got today. Built this house, you're taxed on how many rooms you have in the house. If you built a closet into the side of the wall like we do today, they'd be classified as an additional room, and you would have to pay additional taxes on it. So they didn't build closets into the walls. They brought up armoires or wardrobes, so that you see here, and of course, these are furniture, so you don't have to pay extra taxes on them, and you would save some money.
There you go.
And with that, I want to thank you for coming on tour with me. You are still welcome to go around the back section of the house. We have a good example of two sugarcane presses out there. They were used to crush up the sugarcane and make it into cane juice and make it into sugar from there. We do have a display back there explaining the slave quarters. You can take a look at that. Okay. Or you can just feel free to walk around in the grounds at your leisure. Thank you very much.
All right, so we're at the sugar rollers from the Braden Plantation and the Braden River of 1850. Sugar rollers, it was based on the historical records, limited, concerning life on the Gamble Plantation. It's a conceptual rendering of the first type of cabin erected to house the enslaved people in the late 1840s. It was constructed of the sabal palm logs, which grew in abundance along the Manatee River on Florida's frontier. And this same records indicate that sometime in the 1850s, a second style of cabin was constructed of tabby, a primitive form of concrete, thereby producing more primitive structure. And this is a sugarcane roller. So this would grind up the sugarcane. In between here, they put the sugarcane in, and it would grind it up as a machine and would go into little crystallized balls, little crystals about that big. Hardly you can see them, and it would grind through here and then come out the base into here. And that's where it would go. You would have a big old bowl, basin bowl here. That's where they collect all the sugar cane into these bowls for baking process. In honor of the celebration of the United States of America's 250th birthday this year, decided to do a little bit, I'm glad this is here, of World War I memorial. It's an appreciation of the Florida's veterans, World War 1917 through 18. They live in the hearts of all who knew them. It was erected on October 10th of 1937. Miss R.P. Spunberger, Miss Marion Sinclair Dixon, and Miss R.E. Dowling. That's who erected this memorial headstone for the veterans who fought in World War I and II and Vietnam and Korean Wars. This one over here is dedicated to the Confederates of the Civil War, 1861 to 1865. It was erected on October 10th of 1937. The State Commission, Miss R.P. Sponbarger, Chairman, Miss Marion Sinclair Dixon, and Miss R.E. Dowling. Also erected the Confederates headstone in honor between the Civil War North, which is the Union, and the South were the Confederates. Very good for American history fans like myself. It's the Patton House, built in the 1890s by Dudley A. Patton, furnished and operated by the United Daughters of the Confederacy. So the Confederates helped build this house. Of course, we couldn't go in it. I don't think allowed to go in it. But just the outside, it's built in the 1890s, right after the Civil War. About 30 years after the Civil War. And it was operated by Dudley A. Patton and the Daughters of the Confederacy.